Okay. Looks like we're live. Ed, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you, Jason?
I'm good. We're good. I'm good. Um, Booking engines. There's been a lot. I've seen a lot published recently about booking engine, and then I guess the big one was at the end of the year, H2C's report. Um, like 78% of hoteliers that responded to their survey, feel like their booking engine is outdated, with like over 60% um, feel like it's just completely inadequate to support their any kind of direct booking. So I felt like, well, it's definitely a topic we need to talk about because it is a big problem, and who
Yeah,
better than Ed Rogers? So thank you for joining me.
pleasure. It's a
Um,
it's a big topic. Um, it's we're talking about operational issues. We're talking about sales issues. I mean, it's a big problem. But I think that HTC report you mentioned is a for anyone that's not read it. Um, it's a great kind of opener to really this issue, and identifying kind of what is sitting at the top of the priority list of what hoteliers really need. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, um, since it is such a big problem, based on your experience, you know, give us like the top three pain points um, commercial leaders face with their current booking engines.
yeah, I think I mean, I kind of look across all things. I've done a bit of revenue management in my time, rate optimization, conversion rate optimization. I've done everything. So, looking through a commercial eye, I think a lot of booking engines are not living up to good UX. So user experience suffer feeling quite clunky. And that's obviously going to create a drag on performance, particularly, against competitors, online travel agents. We know that's kind of an obvious point, but beyond that, it's booking engines tend not to move or update very often. So one of the things I got from the report as well is that they're lacking optimization tools, things that assess the booking engine and help it improve over time. And a bit connected to that is this idea of reporting, really just being able to measure your performance and then improve on it. So a real lack of reporting information, lack of optimization, bad user experience generally, which obviously talks to things like the search process itself. Finding availability can feel quite difficult sometimes. And then we've got things like the mobile experience and payments. I'm sure we'll get onto some of that in a second, but there's a lot in there. And then you've got integration problems. Wanting to do things as a hotelier should be simple, and often the kind of communication between systems, booking engine to PMS and downwards and so on, it can be difficult to achieve that kind of seamless flow. And so there's some structural problems there around interfaces, and getting data from one system to another, and then getting that data to kind of do something useful and actually impact the guest experience. So that's part of kind of my thinking, and also just generally the slow incremental progress that we see. Like, I think that report highlights a little bit of frustration, and over 4 years, that report, that HTC report, looks sort of the same question, and you can see the same issues are kind of more or less there. There's been some movement, but generally personalization is up there, interfaces, so a whole range of topics impacting a lot of people, but yeah, a lot to kind of dig into.
Yeah. And you mentioned OTAs. I mean, OTAs outpace hotels mostly, right? Delivering a seamless booking engine. So much investment they've made over the past few years. I mean, how do outdated booking engines contribute to, what we like to call revenue leakage? And, what can hotels do to regain control of direct booking and get a more balanced strategy at the very least?
Yeah. Well, obviously the conversion side. So if your booking engine is letting you down, you're obviously just going to bleed business anyway. So that's an obvious point. So you want to be thinking in terms of, well, how do we address this? And then avoiding dead ends. So some booking engines will tend to sort of try and query a search and then not find anything, and that's the end of the conversation. The guest sort of has to move on. So that's a problem, because often, you're working with date flexibility. The booking engine should really be promoting other things, and trying to kind of broaden the customer's view of inventory if that's possible. Of course, trying to avoid abandonment is critical. So it's that kind of UX together with, quite clunky search and availability management, as well as this idea of having a flexible search. I think those are the things that stand out to me, definitely for things that are worsening the picture, really. So there's opportunity there to improve.
You know, so much of e-commerce is pretty seamless in other industries. Like what specific features do guests expect, from a hotel booking engine, and how do those expectations differ across demographics even?
I think I've mentioned user experience. I think when you compare to retail, most booking engines are way behind. The mobile experience is often lacking. It's an afterthought, and so this is an important point to make. So the kind of the feeling and the flow of the guest journey is often not ideal. But I think the demographic side, this is an important connecting point, because obviously the younger demographics are expecting this. They're expecting the best experience. They want to self-serve increasingly, and so any kind of shortcomings there is obviously going to lose that audience pretty quickly. And obviously part of that being mobile driven, for those audiences, you want to make sure that your mobile experience is optimized for all of that. But yeah, I think it's then the older generations, they're still booking. They tend to rely on desktop more. They might browse on mobile but book on desktop, and they tend to be a little bit more detail orientated. We'll read the descriptions, but in today's world, very social media orientated. We're conditioned almost not to pay too much attention to text and copy, and so we sort of lead with our eyes. We need a responsive website that's going to load quickly, and sort of expose us quickly to the content that we need, and not having to go dig around for it, or sort of navigate clunky UX and UI.
Yeah. Well, you and SHR have been thinking about this quite a bit.
Yeah.
And since I always think back, I started with SHR in like 2016, and even way back then, Rod Jimenez, our CEO, was always like, "Why can't the website and the booking engine be the same? Like, why
Mm.
do we gotta why is it gotta switch over?" And so that's been a thorn in his side, going all the way back, and so right at the end of the year, we kind of had a soft launch of what we're calling the embedded booking engine, which uses a modal, and it keeps you on the website. So, going back to what you said about user experience and kind of a clunky flow, and just kind of stopping in the middle of what guests are searching for. Why don't you walk us through exactly what the embedded booking engine is?
Yeah, I think so. It's a big innovation for us, just evolving kind of what we're doing. So the kind of value proposition, in a simple way, is just you're on the website, you're kind of immersed in the brand. You've made your selection, you're interested in the hotel, and you're browsing content. You might be looking at kind of rates, or you might be looking at rooms, or a combination, and you're kind of ready to buy. And what typically happens is you're redirected away from the website. And there are some tricks that industry's evolved over years: domain labeling, some branding efforts to kind of make you feel like you're still with the hotel, but fundamentally there's been a break in the journey. And so what we wanted to do was evolve from just breaking that journey into kind of basically making them able to book, to shop and book directly on the website. So this kind of immediacy from shopping to booking kind of all in one place. So we're no longer having to redirect the customer, and they can find what they were browsing kind of immediately. So it's almost taking a leaf out of retail. We just don't want to disrupt the flow, and we don't want to be an impediment. So by creating this modal engine, we can connect the guest kind of really quickly to what it is they want to buy.
Yeah, and this is you can customize it by brand, right? To a certain
Yeah,
degree,
yeah,
and by actions, it'll open,
yeah.
right?
So you can set triggers. So I could be browsing any part of the website, and a button or a trigger, as I call it, can load the embedded engine with a filtered view of rates and availability. So we can bring you to a specific rate or a package, or we could take you to a combination of rooms or a room. And so you could see a filtered view of what the hotel has to offer. So it's a kind of targeted shopping and buying process, and it's launched by these kind of triggers that are embedded onto the website, and that loads the UI as well. So it's
Yeah,
really simple. Yeah, just kind of easy, understandable e-commerce. You're there, you're interested in browsing. Okay, I'm ready to buy, or I want to look at some prices. You click on the button, and then instantly we'll load up that view of the booking engine. And the branding aspect is minimal, to the point that because you're on the website, we don't need to cater for extensive branding in this context. We still maintain a redirect booking engine, so you can still have that kind of process. But we think this embedded view, because it's part of the website, it's immersed in the brand. That's just naturally going to resonate with the guest and just make
yeah,
life easier for them. Yeah.
and you can experiment with those triggers, right? To
Mhm.
like over time, you can figure out what works better than something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
the great thing about it is we just sort of handed the controls, right? So it's up to the hotelier, like what they want to configure and how they want to draw the embedded engine up. And so they just need to apply the link in behind the button, so the URL, and then we can trigger a campaign. So they can iterate, or we can work with them to kind of to plan and optimize around that. But it's yeah, it's a big step forward.
yeah. I know you got some early adopters, so keep us posted.
Indeed.
Um, the modern booking engines often promise a seamless integration. You had mentioned integration earlier, and always an issue with the hotel tech stack. But there's always the seamless integration promise with PMS and channel managers. What are the technical challenges of achieving this, and how have you and SHR overcome it over the past few years?
Well, the I kind of hinted at the architectural issues. So when we communicate with different systems, often with different views of the world, um, we have to sometimes work to the lowest common denominator, and I think that's a theme of travel technology. You've got legacy tools that are pervasive, that have shaped travel for many years, but they lack kind of modern API capabilities, or they're the point of failure, if you like. So um, it's kind of incumbent on us to kind of work with those partners to try and improve where we can and make progress. So there's a kind of it's a recognition there that there are points of failure, and then we work with those partners to try and address it in a kind of holistic way. But there are new partners coming to the market all the time that have a modern API approach, and that's the direction of travel that we're moving in, thankfully. But there's still some issues there in getting systems connected. But yeah, that communication between partners has been key for us, working with those teams to try and make those integrations better and more fit for the future, for sure.
Yeah, and here it is, 2025, and we're still talking about mobile bookings. like I would hope that uh, websites and booking engines are mobile ready, and because I think we even reported at the end of last year that even our own data was showing about a 50%, 51%,
Mm,
bookings on mobile. So it is. We've been talking about it forever, but it's a real deal. Um,
Yeah,
You
it's
know, go ahead.
yeah, I think you got the right stat there. So about 50% on average passes through mobile. So that's a big chunk of the revenue. So we talked about demographics earlier. So we'll see a natural priority for younger generations. They're happy to kind of browse and book on mobile. They're comfortable using their payment methods, so they've got hooked up on those devices. And it's still the older ones that move from mobile to desktop, or sometimes it's just desktop. But yeah, that swing to mobile, I think, is going to continue. Absolutely. It may not be the 100% of the pie, but it will be. I think it will move up to sort of 70% within a few years. So
Yeah,
it's a big part of it. But it comes with challenges, obviously. You got a small screen size, so how do you communicate everything you can do in a nice experience, right? That's a challenge. It's an obvious one, and obviously all the optimization that needs to come from there to make that sort of successful. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a big area. But yeah, like I said, I think it's going to swing even more, just as those kind of older generations, you know, move on, and then we've got sort of the younger ones that are the kind of in-market travelers that become the kind of new business travelers, the new consumers. So I think that's definitely an
yeah.
expectation.
Soon as Gen X figures out how to connect their payment to their phone,
That's
looking at
very
myself.
true. Very true.
I haven't had an iPhone forever. I don't think I have Apple Pay set up. I think the places I go don't. See, that's another indication that where I go hang out, they don't take Apple Pay.
Yeah, where I live, they don't take cash anymore. So, you're kind of
Yeah.
forced almost. Yeah.
I started carrying cash around just on purpose, just so, it's like, dadgummit, I'm not giving up. I go to In-N-Out Burger here at the burger joint. It's like cash,
You got to handle the money.
nickels and dimes.
Yeah.
Another hot topic, 2025, 2024, AI.
Mm.
Um, God, just so broad. But it really can be empowering. So how can hotels use AI to help personalization,
Mm.
with their booking engines and enhance, even guest loyalty, increase direct bookings, or upselling?
Yeah, I think AI is going to kind of be a kind of a turbo booster for everything that's being done at the moment. So if you're doing kind of curated messaging, which I encourage everyone to be doing, any kind of personalized messaging or content or sales promotions where you're prioritizing certain upsells versus others based on data, AI is going to make that a lot easier. So be able to kind of analyze data quickly, get to patterns and respond to those patterns faster. Obviously, with large language models, we also have this content engine as well. So this ability to create copy, at a scale that no human or team of people could really do. And we've been working on personalization for a while. The industry has, the broader tech industry has been working on personalization. It's this idea of connecting the user to the right message at the right time. So we know Spotify, Netflix have been doing this for years, Amazon as well. Just AI makes this so much easier in a way to get done, but also makes it a lot more relevant because you can start to do the micro targeting that was a nice to have before. Before you had to think in quite broad segments and buckets of users and say, well, here's a family, so I'm going to talk to all families the same. Whereas if you're collecting the data and you know who the person is, you might have other data points. You can tailor that message even further on. And so AI is going to allow that kind of micro targeting at speed and at scale that we just didn't think was possible a few years ago. So it's definitely an enablement thing, and that's just content and sales messaging and personalization. We also have pricing, data analysis, obviously looking at all the trends that might be on the property or attached to the website performance, booking engine performance. So there's a whole range of areas and topics and disciplines that AI is going to sit on top of, and so empower all of us to do more with that information. Currently, we've got a lot of data, and that was something that came out in the H2C report. So we've got plenty of data now. It's just how do we put it to use? And I think it's perfect timing for AI to obviously come in. So as long as you've got good structured data and good reporting, you can put AI onto that and start to kind of ask questions, and questions that actually, frankly, were quite hard to answer before. Like I said. So this is really great stuff.
Yeah, and your integration into a solid CRM is just more data that the AI can access that can be
For sure.
great personalization. Yeah.
Just has that kind of central guest profile, right? And suddenly, plugging in more data sources is not it's not a person's responsibility to figure out, right? So you can just keep adding data to it, and it can start to kind of structure that and make sense of it and discern patterns for you. So, and that doesn't require any technical skill anymore. So as long as you can get your hands on the data and your CRM system can put that into the database, that in theory the AI can just keep working on top of all of that. So there's really no limits to how deep the CRM can go around the profile, right? So a lot of it's already captured today, like transaction data. More CRMs are looking at kind of browsing behavior on the website. So before it was a tool that dealt with kind of known guests, people with profiles. Now it's dealing more with, browsing data, people that haven't transacted. So we'll see more of that come in, and AI will be able to help as well with all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think everyone's, I see reports, hoteliers are very keen on AI. They're looking for what's going to make a difference. I don't
Mhm.
really have a pulse on how far they've gotten. Like you always have early adopters. I mean, your OTAs, early adopters, your
Yeah.
big brands, early adopters. But, for the big groups and the independents, the big independents, I don't have a sense of how far along they are in understanding really what AI can do.
No, I think that's fair. I think we're all kind of, by now, I hope everyone is kind of familiar with ChatGPT, and they're integrating that more into their daily activities, right? As professionals, we're all kind of using it. Um, Other models are available now, and so you can kind of see how our own patterns are changing. And I think for independents, it's they're still going to be leaning on technology partners to set a vision and deliver kind of products on top of those. Um, but yeah, and that's all coming, I think, and in progress. But yeah, I think they'll be leaning more on the tech stack and the technology partners than necessarily being the ones that drive that themselves or develop that kind of competency in house. We see a slightly different picture with some of the bigger chains, that have those kind of resources, and they want to do that themselves. But there's still a big opportunity for independents to work with tech partners to drive some of that innovation. But it is early doors. We're seeing things like content generation coming into platforms, which is good. Simple things like copywriting, amending things, making recommendations. But that's really just the start. That's just the start of what AI can do. So I think over the
Yeah.
next couple of years, we'll see a big shift.
Yeah. Let's talk about ROI and metrics. Like, what key metrics should hoteliers be looking at with regards to their booking engine performance?
For me, as a kind of former hotelier, it was always share of direct bookings. So you want to be looking at that ratio between OTAs primarily and your direct channel. It's an obvious one, but that is kind of the North Star. It's possible to increase your booking engine conversion rate, but substantially lose out to OTAs if they're also growing at the same time. So you should really focus on that ratio between direct and OTA. But obviously, beyond that, you've got your booking engine conversion rate, your average booking value. So obviously, you want to see that grow. But in the detail of things, where are guests dropping off in the funnel, right? So are enough users moving from the website into the booking engine? That speaks to issues around the website, maybe even digital marketing, right? So have you got the right kind of traffic coming to the website? Are they the right customer? And so how many of them move into the booking engine? So that's just one metric that you could track, that transition. And then you want to get a good eye on top of the actual booking engine flow and seeing and identifying drop-offs. So, where customers are getting friction. And obviously the further down the funnel they go, the higher the stakes. So you don't really want to be losing people on the checkout page. Those are high intent bookers. So again, you want to be measuring that drop off rate, just see where the leakage is, and then work from there. But beyond that, it's guest satisfaction, of course. You want to be able to measure, what guests think about, the whole experience, both booking and staying. And so obviously that makes up the customer journey. But I think looking at that ratio between online and ODAs, and then obviously optimizing the booking engine. So where is the leakage, and identifying problems. And the booking engine can be part of that drop-off story. It can also be pricing strategy. I mentioned digital earlier. So you can start to ask questions, and that's kind of the key thing. Start asking the questions and then deciding what data points help you answer some of that. But as a priority, you just want to make sure that you're looking at the split, and then all the KPIs that flow down from that will make sense.
Yeah. As we get close to wrapping up here, let's circle back to innovation. What do you think the next big innovation in booking technology is going to be? AI?
AI, for sure. I think there's been some. I think ChatGPT just announced their kind of agent, their productized agent offering, right? So I think soon we're going to start to see AI agents play a bigger role, and so we're going to see a shift from what is optimizing channels for humans, and it's be increasingly about optimizing for AI. So AI agents are basically AI that can act on the web on your behalf on a precise set of instructions, or on a kind of a protocol that you decide, right? And imagine I don't know how, it feels like we're only weeks away from this actually. So you can say to an agent that knows pretty much everything about you. Let's say I've trained my agent on all my booking history. It knows the hotels I like. It knows the airlines I fly with. And I say, look, I just want to find something. Find me a hotel. And suddenly I've got this agent that knows everything I like, can go out and find something for me. So it breaks that paradigm that we've had for so long, which is that the user is doing all the legwork and going into the internet and doing all of this kind of comparing and contrasting, where you can easily see an AI with the right instruction, right, based on history and all of that stuff, can go out and do that for me. And so that will change the dynamics, I think, quite a lot. And it can be both a really good thing for direct, but it also could be a challenge. So where those AI source information from is going to be really interesting. Are they going to go to the OTAs who have the inventory, shall we say, or are they going to have to find that inventory direct? So there's a lot of interesting implications around that. So keep an eye out for AI agents, how that's going to impact digital and booking experience. So I think we're optimizing for AI very soon around bots and agents coming into systems. So that's a good one. And I think personalization continue the next few years. We'll continue to see that mature. I think we'll see more capabilities coming around that, like I mentioned with content coming from large language models. It's easy to kind of build segments and generate content quite quickly. Again, that just needs to be based on good data that you're collecting. Those are my kind of 2-3 kind of interesting ones. I think we'll see more innovation in mobile as well, but it's quite incremental. I think AI is definitely the thing that's going to be driving a lot of change in the next year.
Yeah, ever since the product team introduced me to agents, I see it everywhere in other industries. And this is coming on fast, I think. And I think hoteliers should definitely be inquiring with their vendors, what are you doing with agents? Because It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think it's going to come on pretty fast. I think how effective the agent's going to be. It's going to evolve over time. Like I think to be kind of an end to end for me personally as a traveler, it would have to really know a lot about what I like. Um, I've got to sort of invest in the prompt at the moment, maybe tell it a bit more than I would like to right now. So I think once those agents kind of exposed to more of my actual preferences, I think that will help. But I don't think it's quite there yet. But I think that's a small hurdle in the grand scheme of things. The hard work's been done. These agents can go out, search the web in full browsers, I think, and so they can look and act like normal users. And so there's all sorts of stories out there you can see online about agents acting on behalf of people to negotiate discounts.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about retention for bookings when you have AI capabilities that are watching price changes. There's a whole world to come, I think. But yeah, definitely keeping an eye out on agents, I think, is going to be important for everyone.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap up with let's give these commercial leaders some advice. Like, what's that one piece of advice as we wrap up you'd give them?
For me, I always say start with the guest in mind, so the user experience, and work backwards. So, map out that kind of user experience you want to create, and go backwards. So that naturally leads me to a good booking engine, right? Something that has a modern UI, best practices, and then you'd want to sort of really think about mobile as part of that, and of course personalization. So connecting the guests to relevant content that inspires them to stay loyal in some cases, or add on something to their stay. These are important things. So really good optimization for UX. Invest in your mobile experience, of course, and then personalization, and all of these things, right, are connected to AI. So you'll find enablement in AI, but yeah, certainly those three things are important. But the experience is really what we're focused on. Everything else is kind of a means to an end. So personalization drives the guest experience up. It's not, we don't do personalization for its own sake. It's all about driving the guest experience. So I think just keep that in mind. And yeah, I think as long as you're true to those principles and you find the right partners, you can do it.
Very good.
All
Well, this
right.
has been very enlightening, Mr. Rogers. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Let's do it
Thank you very
again
much.
soon.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.